We are joined today here by Ludo Labs co-founders, Faris Nakvi and Arya Manvir, and by Thomas Price, co-founder of Common Goal. And let's kick the introductions with our colleagues from Ludo Labs, so we can hear for all that don't know much yet about Ludo Labs. Tell us a bit about yourself, Faris, Aryaman, and what Ludo Labs is all about.
Sure. Firstly, thank you so much, Elvira, for the introduction, and Thomas. It's really nice to be here. I'll introduce myself. My name's Aryaman. I'm from Bombay, India. My background is I actually went to college with Faris. That's how we know each other. And I grew up loving football. I'm still completely in love with the game of football. But I discovered cryptocurrencies in 2012. And that was a bit of a red pill moment for me, where I fell down the rabbit hole of exploring these new technologies. And I've been working in that space ever since. So I've been lucky to have different experiences in my professional life, but all of them have been around technology, and most of them have been around cryptocurrencies. So this is my second cryptocurrency venture, and I get to actually merge football and crypto. So I'm very excited about that. That's my background.
Super, thanks Aryaman, and Elvira, Thomas, great to be on the line. Thanks for having us here. Just to give a bit of background on myself as well. So my background is primarily in consumer technology businesses. And then most recently, I have set up a sports management and venture capital business called MTAA. That was about 3 years ago when I first forayed into the football space, along with my co-founder, who's also a co-founder at Ludo Labs, also known as Wolf. And the idea of us getting into that space and why that's quite relevant for this topic today is that over the course of the last 10, 15 years, we saw a very big change happening in football, which was the influx of capital moving into the game. And that came as a function of largely TV rights, and in parallel, the rise of social media, which led to football players and clubs gaining quite global status quite quickly. And with that comes money, with that comes exposure, visibility, and not to use the taboo, but obviously responsibility as well. And what we saw with that was that capital was starting to flow into directions that was not necessarily effective. And with the amount of money going into the game and with the intention that football players and clubs and all of the other stakeholders within the game had, there was an ability to harness that capital for a greater cause. And so we went off and set up a venture fund focused on getting football players and clubs to invest into products and opportunities that could benefit both the football ecosystem, but their wider stakeholder communities, to create a knock-on effect. And so as Aryaman mentioned, and I'll keep this quite brief, but as Aryaman mentioned, both him and I have known each other for 10 odd years, 12 odd years at this point, and have had the unfortunate pleasure, I guess, of knowing each other's toothpaste choices. And about a year ago, he called me and said, listen, you're doing a lot of really cool stuff, but you need to wake up again and smell the coffee. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, listen, you really need to get back into the crypto space, as he was actually the person who told me to get into it 9 years ago, and I ignored all of his claims at that time. And since getting back into the space, ever since, we've never looked back. And the idea was really then, getting inspiration from other NFT projects which were in the space that were building out very, very authentic communities extremely rapidly. And the idea for us was really, to look at two things. The first being that we were all sitting in lockdown, for a year, 2 years, and everyone was quite, discontent, let's call it, with staying indoors, and started to look inward and started to look digitally. And so we said, how can we utilize a similar structure of what Web3 has done for so many people in terms of creating a unified sense of being with others around the world, and translate that into football? But I'm digressing, so obviously I want to also stay on the topic before we dive into Ludo Labs, and also just thank you guys for bringing us onto the stage and having this opportunity to chat with you guys.
Well, thank you guys for joining, and I'm sure there will be many questions also from everyone that is joining here today about Ludo Labs. But before that, just a quick introduction also on Common Goal, Thomas. So Thomas Price is co-founder of Common Goal. I've been working alongside Thomas together for the last 7 years. We launched Common Goal in 2017, and for those who are joining today that are not yet Common Goal followers or know much about the movement, it would be great, Thomas, to hear a little bit about, maybe briefly explain what the movement is about.
Sure, yeah, happy to. But first of all, also from my end, great to be here with you to share this space and explore this new frontier, right, of Web3, which seems to be one of the biggest social experiments that's being run at the time. So it's going to be fascinating to see how everything pans out in that regard. And so great to share the space with you all. On Common Goal, maybe just to briefly introduce the movement itself. We started off 2017, so now a little bit more than 4 years ago, with really a very simple idea, which is to unlock the power of sport, which is really a passion point of so many people around the world. It's probably the world's most universal language. And use that cultural influence and impact of football to drive social change with it. And we're doing it by connecting the world of professional football with a world of NGOs, grassroots organizations that are working in the communities and using football as a tool to address social issues, ranging from youth unemployment to homelessness to tackling racism, peace-building efforts that are supported around the world. And we are doing it through a commitment, a pledge commitment. In the case of individuals, first and foremost, professional players and managers so far, it's a 1% salary pledge. So everybody who joins Common Goal is giving 1% of their football earnings to support these kind of initiatives. And the same goes for businesses, actually. So there is an earnings pledge, and the collaboration that we are really proud to enter with Ludo Labs is also at the core of that is an earnings pledge based on the NFT sales that are happening, which we are going to hear more about, I believe, later on in our conversation here. But yes, Common Goal is really about a collective effort to drive change. We recognize that football is a team sport, and if we're looking at the biggest social issues out there in the world today, I think it's fair to say that no one individual or organization can tackle these type of challenges alone. So we are really looking to inspire collective action, and as much as possible, unite the global football community in a shared effort to drive social change through the game. So our DNA is very much, we're an athlete-driven movement that seeks to embed social purpose at the heart of the game, at the heart of football, and making contribution a new normal. But now I think there's a next level in our evolution, and that's where we're particularly excited about the opportunities that Web3 provides, which is about looking at fans. Fans are really at the heart of the game, and we want to provide more and more opportunities for fans to participate in this effort and join Common Goal and link up with their idols to drive change together. So again, very excited to be here. Look forward to the discussion with you all, and also the interaction with everybody that's listening. Feel free to ask questions, and as much as possible, we would like to hear from you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Thomas. And before we actually get through and transition to the discussion, that's exactly what I wanted to say. For everyone that is here, we are going to try to take some questions through the talk, so don't wait until the end. This is not about us talking for 45 minutes and then adding some questions at the end. But actually, if you have some relevant questions through, please request to join the stage, and I'll try to give you the opportunity as soon as we have a little break in between during the discussion. Let's get a little bit, I think a lot of people might be wondering about what is the collaboration, what is the scope of the partnership between Common Goal and Ludo Labs, how the two entities or organizations come together. And I'm sure a lot of people in the audience are already understanding from these first intros the league mission and vision, but I would really like to have you three explain a little bit more. Maybe first off, how do Ludo Labs and Common Goal come together at first, right? Who wants to take that on? Maybe Thomas, you wanna start with that, and how you guys first got in touch?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's I think fascinating to see that you guys just started out quite recently launching Ludo Labs, but from the outset you decided that it's really important to you guys to make giving back, to make contribution to sustainable development a key part of your product, of your business. So I would like to hear from you guys. Why did you think that way, and sort of what inspired you to do that?
Absolutely. No, would be happy to talk about that. I think as well, kind of just before we dive into it, to give some of the listeners a bit more context onto Ludo Labs. So very simply, it's one of the first digital football-based communities for fans to interact directly with some of the world's leading football players across the globe and share that common love for the beautiful game together, fans and footballers alike. And the idea was that over the course of the last 4 years, 5 years, even more so, we've seen in certain instances events take place that have led to fans feeling very alienated from the game, which COVID only became the icing on the cake, which was out of our control. And so for football players who are the lifeblood, obviously, of the sport in one side, which is, let's call it the supply side, there is a very strong need and correlation for the demand side to feel that same love and continue to feel revived and invigorated when they watch the sport, and that is the fans. And so that connection between footballer and fan, we felt, had the ability to be elevated to a different level through the lens of new technologies that are available via Web3 and specifically NFTs. And so we went out and effectively created, off the back of what we felt could become a digital community, a series of NFTs that would feature 10 football players from around the world, both retired and present, including players like Common Goal member Paulo Dybala, Miralem Pjanic, Edin Dzeko, Patrice Evra, and others. A series of NFTs which would comprise of various attributes. And those NFTs, there were 3,500 of them in the first collection, in the first drop. Members collect those, and through the ownership of that NFT, gain access into a community where you can interact with those footballers on one side. You can receive rewards from them on the other side, so that could be signed jerseys, personalized jerseys, meet and greets, shout outs, being able to play FIFA with them online on one side. And on the other, namely, and I think this is probably one of the most important elements, is to be in a community with like-minded people from all around the world that share that same passion. And that is something which has become a very important tenet of Web3, specifically in the context of 2021. And for us, when we think about social impact and what this can create, of course, there are examples of NFTs that have gone for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is not the kind of project that we want this to become, where it's, each NFT is unattainable to someone that's trying to come in as a new entrant. For us, it's that if a fan wants to get in, a fan should have the ability to get in. And so for us, it's very important to then look at how can we galvanize the largest amount of fans to come in on the first note. And number two, then how can we utilize and catalyze those funds into effect for social change to create a lot more longevity into the sport, but also to give opportunity to the sport. Because like we said, with a like-minded community within Ludo Labs of members and collectors, the same principle applies globally to football itself, which means that there are many people around the world that want to be gain access to the sport, whether it's professionally or even recreationally, but don't have the means to do so. And so if we can, as Ludo Labs, give that capacity to more and more people around the world, that is what gets us up every single day. And so obviously through you guys and the exemplary work that you've been doing for 4 or 5 years now. We thought it was only right to be able to not reinvent the wheel, but work with someone who's doing it in a world-class manner. And I guess that when we met was through Paolo and his team, Paolo Dybala, and so it was yourself and Ben and myself and Ariman that had a good discussion, and I think it was really kind of seeing eye to eye in terms of the value sets that both of us had, which was seeing how you could kind of unlock such an incredible collective power and amount of capital through these sorts of communities to drive change. But that really drives me to a question and a comment that I wanted to bring up, which was through Web3 and through NFTs, philanthropy and the power of giving can become amplified so much further and can become a lot more accessible for people to contribute towards. And so for a sport like football, which has, as per latest reports, 5 billion quote-unquote fans around the world, if you can enable for more of them to enable change within that sport, why would you not? That was our first, I guess, hurdle, right, to tackle.
Right. No, I think that's fantastic, and I would agree that there's sort of that shared DNA in terms of the community building and trying to get more out of football is really what brought us together. For us, what is particularly exciting about this collaboration, as you guys have made the pledge to contribute with 5% of the proceeds from the primary and secondary sales of the NFTs, is we are really about unlocking a systemic contribution from football to sustainable development. So we're looking to advance and create this evolution from what used to be more sort of a project-based funding approach, or you're doing an activation here to doing an activation there, to really embed a mechanism and create an approach that is about connecting the business of football to contributing to community change. And I think with you guys from the outset embracing this pledge is really exemplary for this new way of doing business. So we are incredibly excited about that. But I would also like to explore just briefly, because maybe also the people hearing about NFTs and cryptocurrencies, there's one big topic which is about the environmental impact of all of that, right? And I know you guys have a take on that, and are also looking to really make sure that what you're doing is as much as possible environmentally stable or sustainable in a way. So can you maybe speak to that? Because I think it's something that's still a big point, and where Web3 is sort of navigating its way to becoming something that you can embrace with a good conscience, because the environmental side is taken care of.
I can take that one, and that's a great question. A lot of data has been shared about potential environmental impacts of using blockchain technology, and I think a lot of the narrative is actually sensationalized a bit. There are, of course, energy costs that come with using any electronic systems, and blockchains seem to be quite energy hungry, at least blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is what the Ludo Labs NFT collection is based on. And while there are plans in place to reduce this environmental impact significantly, currently it can still be a little bit expensive in terms of carbon output to use something like Ethereum. And so we wanted to actually address that actively in Ludo Labs, and that's why a portion of our sales go towards offsetting the carbon impact of launching the Ludo Labs collection. So that's a topic very close to our hearts, sustainability, and to the hearts of our partners like Paolo, who is, as you mentioned, a common goal partner. So that's a step which we've taken, and many other NFT projects have also taken. So in the short term, I think it's the least that we can all do to do our part. But in the long term, in fact, there already are many blockchain projects around the world that are not at all especially environmentally hungry or carbon hungry, I should say. So in the long term, I don't think it will be an issue. And in the short term, even, I think there are many things going on which will reduce the impact. So thankfully, I don't see it being a talking point for very much longer.
Maybe let me just jump in here, as we have a lot of people joining, and I'm sure most people know about Web3, but it could be great to take a step back, and maybe for some who don't fully understand football, Web3 or Web3 in the context of football, could you guys maybe Faris or Ari tell us about a little bit what it can offer in the context of football, and what you see the opportunity specifically for fan engagement and common goal? Maybe Thomas, what's the scope that you see coming, and how it's moving a little bit the fan experience from one that is more related to clubs and to let's say live events, to one where you have a different space of belonging and ownership.
Sure. Ayo, you want to kick off on that?
Sure. I probably start by just talking a bit about what do we say when we, what do we mean when we say Web3? What is it? And then an example that I really like that's relevant to both Common Goal as well as I think Ludo Labs. So when people say Web3, the term refers to the third wave of the internet. The first wave of the internet was what they called the static web, where information was uploaded to a website and you just consumed that information. It was a one-way sort of thing where you were just getting some static info from a web page. The second wave was the dynamic web, where you could actually interact with websites, for example, like Facebook, because you could upload things and receive information. So the flow of information is going both ways. The third generation of the web, or Web3, is what they call the permissionless web, where it's possible to actually build websites, dynamic websites that interact with each other without needing the permission of any one party, such as Facebook. So let's take an example to kind of look at what that means. There was an interesting charity project that took place earlier this year, where an artist called Jack Butcher created NFTs to help fund relief efforts in Afghanistan. And he sold these NFTs to people on the internet who wished to contribute. So basically, they paid cryptocurrency and received these NFTs, which were just little artworks, and all the proceeds went to Afghan children. But what was cool about these NFTs, and let's say the same thing can be done with Common Goal, where individuals and well-wishers can contribute funds towards let's say like a Common Goal NFT and receive this NFT, is that receipt that you've actually donated, which is an NFT in your wallet, can actually be used by anybody else to build applications and experiences. So when you just donate on give.com or change.org, you just receive an email saying that, hey, you are a donor, thank you very much. And maybe your name appears in the database of that charity, but nobody can access the database of that charity. It's private. Whereas if I've donated to that Jack Butcher or Common Goal charity campaign, and now I've received an NFT, that NFT is public. It exists on a public blockchain, and anybody is free to build things around that NFT without permission of Common Goal or Jack Butcher or even myself. So somebody could build a website that says, hey, you can only access this website if you have this NFT in your wallet. And on the website, we will tell you, maybe we'll give you a special discount code to some future event, or we'll give you early access to some product, or invite you to some physical online event. So all of this can be done permissionlessly, and that's an example of what they call Web3 in action.
Yeah, and just to build on that, thanks very much, Ayo. I think that the idea of the permissionless and trustless process of this when it comes to philanthropy and charity is a very important component, because I think that over the course of the last 20-30 years, while there are a number of charities and foundations and philanthropic organizations that have done phenomenal work, like yourselves, there have been others that have not necessarily been transparent with the flow of funds in terms of where they go, and also in terms of donations, where they come from. And so through a process via Web3, where donations are effectively tracked on a blockchain, right? you have the ability to track both into the source of funds, but then also ultimately you have the ability to then utilize that further to then show the flow of funds into the ultimate beneficiary's hands, which is a very powerful thing. And so when you then take that and you also amplify it to the idea that with an NFT, which is, you know, effectively a piece of data, you have something that comes from it. You have something to show from it. So when you get onto a website like Just Giving, which is a popular website for donations, you simply click, you know, donate $5 and it goes towards that cause, and that's it. But let's say, take another example, there was an organization that was set up by an LSE, London School of Economics graduate in Pakistan called Taiba is the organization. It's a water-based foundation. They set up an NFT about 9 months ago, which was the first NFT in the country. But what they did was they used it to raise funds to create an actual device. So they raised around 2 million rupees, which is the equivalent, I believe, of, you know, $12,000, which doesn't seem like a lot of money. But there, what they used that to do was create devices which were called the H2O wheel. And that wheel was basically a water carrying device that would help for people to carry water and transport water from village to village across the country rather than doing it on their shoulders. So, and again, the owners of that NFT are people who then provided and donated to that cause and are then entitled to seeing the results of the actions that were undertaken by the organization. And then it became thousands of people that actually bought that NFT. And so your ability to amplify your message on one side, but the ability to then collectively bring in your communities and wider communities around it is just so much more powerful. And because of that trustless and permissionless process that Ariman mentioned earlier, it becomes a lot easier for someone to part ways with their funds because there's a flow which is very transparent from the outset. And I think that that's where there's been a kind of distrust with charities in the last few years. And so with someone like Common Goal, who already has that reputability and has done so much work on the ground that they can show for and you can show for, bringing more football fans into that realm and bringing the kind of responsibility in one way, but also the kudos in the other way to those fans to feel like they've contributed to the longevity of the sport is a really special thing. Because young people today, there's one thing which is very important for us to kind of take. The Gen Z or Generation Gen Z, let's call it for argument's sake, are very different to millennials and obviously very different to generations before that, right? Where now, when they look at two bottles of water sitting in front of them in a supermarket, and one of which is a normal bottle of water, Evian bottle of water, and one is a kind of a bottle of water which has been used using recycled plastics and has some sort of cause that it's donating its proceeds to, they will likely choose the latter because they want to be part of something, they want to be part of change, and they're more aware, and they have the opportunity to be more aware that they can enact change with such a simple and small thing and action that they take. And so with NFTs and Web3 more broadly, the ability to do that becomes incredibly large. And so with football, we feel, and I think that this is a shared feeling between the four of us and hopefully everyone on this call, that collectively we can create so much change in football and enable for the sport to create change in itself. It's not just giving people the opportunity to play the sport, it's giving people the opportunity to also be employed by the sport. Because if we think of the infrastructure that is required to support football on the ground across the world, it employs thousands of people, if not millions, if we take it to kind of the broader macro set of infrastructure required to support that. And doing it in a way where we can contribute funds towards that effort, which is creating multiplier effects in communities, driving more middle class growth, and ultimately more growth in those economies as a consequence. That is why we're doing this. And through the lens of football, we feel that that is both one, fun, but number two, has so much power as a sector in its own right.
If I can just jump in here to actually ask a question. Elvira, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask a question of you and Thomas, actually, which is that, I think we are really delighted to be partnering with Common Goal because the mission is so noble. And I think that as football fans, when we see our idols like Jurgen Klopp, Paulo Dybala, Serge Gnabry, joining this cause and pledging 1% of their salary, we feel, energized and we want to contribute too. But so far, I'm curious, and the question I'd like to ask is, how can regular fans, actually get involved? Of course, at Ludo Labs here, we're really delighted that we can actually take part. But, what are some thoughts that you have around how everyday fans can get involved and participate in this?
Yeah, I think that's a Thomas. Let me just jump in, and then, because I think that's a very interesting question, and that's actually we have had some opportunities for fans to engage. There has been we have launched the jersey, which fans could purchase. We have a couple of platforms where actually fans can contribute in one way or another. But actually, when we launched Common Goal in 2017, the spectrum was very different, right? The opportunities that, for example, we are discussing today weren't necessarily there 5 years ago, or not in the same way that they are now. And I think one of the key topics for 2022, and especially for the road from 2022 to 2030, it's actually how can fans own the movement as well. We have really, and I don't like saying we, because actually the beauty of the movement is like, it's not us owning it, it's a movement for everyone to own. So at the moment, there's a number of players. We have more than 200 members that have decided to own and lead this movement forward. In terms of athletes, we have community organizations that are doing a lot of work on the ground that are also owning and driving this movement forward. And of course, there's a key question with fans, where we're still trying to really identify bigger opportunities for fans to own, drive, give back, and be part of the movement as other stakeholders are. So in our promise to really enabling everyone to contribute, and actually organizing that collaboration of football contribution to social change or to people and planet, I think there's still a question mark on how to amplify fan participation. And I would like to hand over to Thomas, because actually maybe, Thomas, we have reflected a lot and we have discussed in the past to actually how do we see Web3 playing that enabling role for fans within the Common Goal movement to actually amplify and enable other type of experience.
Yeah, sure. Happy to take that. I mean, for us, the direction that we're going towards, and the vision has always been with Common Goal to build the biggest football club with a social purpose, and that means the entire football community. From businesses, football institutions, we mentioned the leadership coming from the players and managers, but fans are the real lifeblood and essence of football. So we really want to enable fans to join this team. But we have thought a lot about sort of the community building, and also how to sequence that in a way that where this end game becomes possible. And I think Web3 is now a real next level or enabler for community. And I think we can give away that relatively soon we will have a first case there. You mentioned Paulo Dybala being one of the athletes that has decided to partner with Ludo Labs. He joined Common Goal over a year ago. And there will be a collaboration about a special NFT that is going to be released soon. And there, what we will be enabling is football fans that are purchasing the NFT. A significant part of the proceeds from that NFT is going to support a cause that Paulo has selected to allocate his salary pledge donation from Common Goal towards, which is the Playing for Peace project. It's about creating more inclusive and peaceful societies with organizations involved in India, in Argentina, 7 other countries around the world. And football fans are now able to team up with Paulo and this effort. And that's, I think, a next layer of connection between fans and players that NFTs can enable, but potentially also other Web3 technologies such as social tokens, etc. So we're very closely observing and looking into this space. And maybe Faris and Ari, you can give some additional background and context to what we're doing with the Paulo Dybala collaboration. I think it's a very good sort of first case that we're building together.
Definitely. I think that, without giving too much away on that NFT, because I think there's a lot that's going to be happening with that, and we're really excited about it. The idea is that we have two current modes, let's call it, of operating, right? And in terms of the context of our partnership, the first of which obviously is with this current drop of the first 3,500 NFTs that have been created. 5% of all primary and secondary proceeds moving forward will continuously and perpetually go towards Common Goal, with the aim to go towards the various projects that Common Goal and institutions that Common Goal are working with, so that it can be spread more effectively and distributed more globally to create the largest amount of impact. And then we have an opportunity with people like Paulo Dybala, who are both Common Goal members and Ludo Labs members, where we can create very special one-off NFTs, which can be embedded with utility that kind of goes way beyond the Genesis Collection utility, and really create a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and experience for a fan, whoever that fan is that receives that NFT. That is going to be coming very soon in the coming weeks. And the idea, exactly as you said, is that the people on the ground who are working within the affiliate organizations that Common Goal work with are largely young people, and getting young people to take, effectively, they're taking ownership already of implementing these projects on the ground, but getting them as well to be the ones that have the ability to get these experiences where they would never otherwise be able to is something very special. So if we can, together, between the two of us, bring some of those young people from all around the world to be able to also experience that same once-in-a-lifetime experience with Paulo Dybala, it could be life-changing. And not just from the perspective of meeting Paulo Dybala and going through that experience, but having the ability to know that they can first and foremost travel outside of their village in many instances, or their city or their country, and get to a position where they see, number one, what is possible through football, which gives a very large and wider philosophical behavioral change to them and the community that sits within them and the associated people that are within their kind of bubble, to see that things are possible and anything is possible. And I think that is such a powerful tool, and the mind is the most powerful tool, right? So if we can start to get that story out there, that people have the opportunity to do things that they would have never otherwise been able to have done because of these NFTs, or because of Common Goal, or because of Ludo Labs, or Paulo Dybala, those messages are very strong. And those messages can hit home and hopefully also inspire other organizations around the world, whether it's in sport or otherwise, to take the same types of steps in implementing Web3 protocols that enable for more people to get involved with them. So I think that, to answer your question, a lot coming on the horizon with Paulo and with Common Goal and Ludo Labs. But I think that, the wider and more macro point of really what we are trying to drive together is that Web3 is enabling so much change to happen so fast. And people who are native to this space, people who are 14, 15, 17, 18, who have grown up seeing this space be the common practice. And that doesn't even include people like myself who are a little bit older than that. We can do so much, and we can enable for transformation of lives. And I think that is kind of what, for us, we really wanted to hit home on with the concept of this partnership. And so again, just wanted to thank you guys for bringing us up onto the stage to talk about this partnership and what we can do together.
Aris, thank you so much. And I actually, those are very inspiring, and I could say closing words, but they're not closing words yet, because we have a question actually. So let's just take one question and then we are reaching the end, but don't want to go without inviting Rural Soccer Ghana to come into the stage. So you are in now, Rural Soccer Ghana. Do you have a question to share with us? Normally, we should be able to. Okay, is it working now? Yes, you should be able to speak now. Let's see. I don't know, we have some connecting issues. Yes, you can unmute now, Rural Soccer Ghana. I don't know if it's we're having troubles with Rural Soccer Ghana is mute. If you have any question, unmute your mic so we can hear it. Otherwise, no. All right, then I suggest that maybe we start closing it. Maybe any final words or announcements from. Let's start with Thomas with Common Goal. Any grand plans to share before everyone got off the call?
Well, I just really got inspired by Faris' last elaborations there. So very much, looking forward to everything that's to come. Very much sounds like the Web3 meets football-driven social change future is bright. So I believe 2022 will be the year in which we will witness some very powerful examples of how blockchain technology can propel social change movement forwards. You mentioned some really great examples on this call, and it's just a great learning curve to be on. So we are fully committed to engaging and embrace this new possibilities of Web3. And it will be fascinating again, to probably meet a year from now in this constellation again and see how far we have come.
Absolutely. We are very excited as well. Before jumping off, just two things that I wanted to say. Firstly, for everyone who's been here listening, thank you so much. I hope that we can engage with all of you more going forward. And in fact, we have a quiz coming up in just 10 minutes, which will be about Premier League football. And the idea is that anybody can join that quiz. And we have two winners from the quiz who have the most knowledge about football, who will win a free NFT from Ludo Labs. So if you're curious about the project and you want to dip your toes into this digital football community that Faris has described, then please head over to our Ludo Labs Twitter page, from where you will be able to find our Discord. And on the Discord, we will run a quiz in 10 minutes about Premier League football, and you can all check out what we're about. And the second remark I wanted to make is that thank you guys so much at Common Goal. Really, the work you do is super inspiring. And I hope that in a year, we'll have achieved something together where we can use the power of Web3 and the massive passion that exists for football worldwide to bring some lasting societal change and improvement around the world. Thank you so much, guys.
Maybe Faris, anything else to close? I mean, you kind of wrap it up really well before, but just to close and say goodbye.
No, thank you guys. Thank you guys very much for having us here. And I think I echo yours and Ariman and Thomas's thoughts and comments throughout this call. I think that there's a lot that we can do together. It's only the beginning. We're so early in the Web3 journey collectively as a world, and as well as Common Goal and Ludo Labs. It's been about a month. We're obviously only here because of the power of the incredible community that has already endorsed and supported us to this day. And there's some really, really cool stuff that we can do. I think that, getting people to go to games, meet players, have the ability to get insight into the game is one side, but then being able to actually see what you can contribute back into the game is the other. So, everyone on this call, please keep that lasting thought. And, at Ludo Labs and Common Goal, we're both always open to feedback in terms of how we can best achieve that change. And we look forward to doing this again, definitely. So thanks very much.
Yeah, nothing else to add from my side. Thank you so much for the three of you. I have myself learned a lot also today about Web3, and I'm looking forward to seeing more developments coming soon. And thanks for everyone that has joined as a listener. I'm sure you're already thinking how to learn more about Web3 in the context of football, about Ludo Labs and Common Goal, and hopefully you also get the opportunity to own a bit of the movement and to be part of it. So thanks for joining, everyone. See you soon, hopefully in the next Twitter Space event, and have a good day. And